You keep thinking you're waiting for a bit more inspiration, a big enough burst of motivation to finally make a change. But day after day, nothing really happens. You're still the same person with the same intentions, the same dreams, and the same unfinished plans in your head. What you're missing isn't motivation, that unstable emotion you keep chasing, but a real decision, a clear turning point, after which you no longer allow yourself to turn back. There are moments when you feel a surge of inspiration. Write out to-do lists, maybe even start a few things. But how long does that inspiration last? An hour? A day? Maybe a few weeks if you're lucky. Then you fall back into the same state, procrastinating, distracted, doubting yourself, because you never truly decided that you would make it happen, no matter what. A decision is different from a desire. Anyone can desire to succeed, to be healthy, to be happy, but desire has no weight unless it comes with a clear commitment. A real decision, once made in the true sense, is a non-negotiable declaration. Even if I'm tired, I'll do it. Even if I'm unsure, I'll start. Even if no one recognizes me, I'll keep going. It's a silent promise you make to yourself. No drama, no need to share it with anyone, yet powerful enough to change everything afterward. Most people live in limbo, not in enough pain to be forced to change, but not happy enough to feel purposeful. They're stuck in between, wanting to be different, but not ready to let go of what's familiar. They read another book, listen to another podcast, jot down a few more lines in a notebook, but everything remains at the preparation stage. The truth is, you could prepare your whole life and never feel ready. You don't need more information, you need action. And action only comes after a firm decision that you will no longer live in this half-hearted state. Many people think they need a push, a dramatic event, a big crisis to force themselves to change, but no. The most sustainable change doesn't come from surface-level pain. It comes from a quiet moment in your mind. When you look at your life, face yourself honestly and say, enough. A whisper that seems fragile, but if you truly believe in it, it generates more momentum than any loud pep talk from the outside. From that moment on, you no longer live by, if I have time, I'll do it, or if I feel like it, I'll do it. You start living by, if I've decided, I will. You think you're lacking motivation, but maybe the only thing you're lacking is that one moment to sit down and admit that you've been avoiding. Avoiding the difficulty of taking action, avoiding the discomfort of uncertainty, avoiding the possibility of failure. But here's the paradox. The more you avoid, the more your anxiety grows. It doesn't disappear, it just changes shape, becoming restlessness, lack of focus, irritability, even self-doubt. Yet the moment you dare to make a clear decision, even without knowing how to begin, things will start moving. Not because it suddenly becomes easy, but because you've stopped bargaining with yourself. No one can change your life but you. Not a mentor, not a course, not even a detailed plan can pull you out of procrastination if you're not ready to make a decision on your own. And if you keep waiting until it feels right, you might be waiting forever. Because feelings are not a reliable starting point. Action is what drives emotion, and every action begins with a decision. Change doesn't begin with inspiration, it begins with a cold decision that whether you like it or not, you will do what needs to be done. A decision that doesn't wait for motivation, doesn't need anyone's approval, doesn't ask your emotions for permission. That is the only starting point that leads to any result worth having. And if you're looking for a sign, this is it. Stop looking for more reasons to delay. Stop overthinking, choose, decide, and don't look back. There is a widely repeated illusion that you need inspiration before you can start taking action. That when the right moment arrives, when your spirit is lifted, when your energy surges, only then can you create something valuable. But this mindset causes millions of people to wait forever for something that never arrives. Inspiration is the most fragile element on the path to success. It's like a passing breeze. It may bring a few minutes of excitement, but it can't be the foundation for building anything solid. If you live on inspiration, you'll work according to your moods. You'll be good at starting but never finishing. You'll become someone who begins many things, but sees few of them through. On the other hand, if you live by discipline, your actions won't depend on fleeting feelings. You don't work because you're in the mood. You work because you've chosen to live by a clear standard, and you keep your word to yourself. Discipline is the ability to act regardless of emotion. It's when you're tired but still show up. It's when you're bored but still continue. It's when you see no compelling reason to try today but you still choose not to give up. It's not glamorous, it's not inspiring, It doesn't bring a rush of excitement, but it is exactly what keeps you going when all motivation has left. When you get up early on a gloomy morning, when you write out a plan even though your mind feels blank, when you read one more chapter even though you wanted to stop, you're training a kind of inner strength most of the world lacks, the ability to act with intention without relying on inspiration. The difference between successful people and those who stay stuck isn't who feels more inspired, it's who can act more consistently. Inspiration is the starting point for the majority. Discipline is the path of the few. You might feel excited today, but if you don't build a system to protect your behavior on the days when your fire burns low, you'll quit quickly. Discipline is that system. It's like the spine that supports all movement. When you have it, you don't need to feel right to act right, you just do it. And that action, repeated, will take you to your goal, even when the excitement is gone. You might think, I need inspiration to begin creating, to do something truly meaningful. But you will never have inspiration long enough if you don't build strong discipline. It is the act of maintaining a steady rhythm that generates true inspiration. It doesn't come first, it comes later. Inspiration is the reward, not the requirement. Great writers don't wait for ideas to come before writing. They write every day, and ideas appear in the process. Athletes don't wait to feel energetic before going to the gym. They go to the gym every day, and energy is activated during the workout. Every bit of progress starts from action, without inspiration, but with discipline. The truth is, your emotions are unstable. Some days everything feels clear, other days you just want to give up. If you let your actions be dictated by those emotional ups and downs, your life will rise and fall just the same. But if you set a standard for yourself, that no matter your mood today, you will still do what you committed to, then gradually you become someone who isn't led by feelings. You no longer need motivation because you have principles. And principles don't change just because you're tired or sad today. Disciplined people don't do everything perfectly, but they do everything consistently enough to produce real results. They don't win with emotion, they win with stability. They're not flashy, but they are dependable to themselves. And that self-trust is the most solid foundation upon which to build anything deep and meaningful. So if you're waiting for inspiration to begin, stop. Take action first. Start writing when your mind is still blank. Start studying while you still feel lazy. Start training before you feel ready. Action builds momentum. Momentum creates results. Results generate inspiration. And the cycle begins with you, not your emotions. Don't ask how to find inspiration. Ask, what principle can I act on today, even when my feelings don't support me? When you live that way, you no longer need inspiration. You become your own engine. You wait until you feel certain enough, strong enough, confident enough before taking action. You believe that once you're good enough, ready enough, brave enough, the fear will vanish and you'll step into the world boldly, brilliantly, without trembling. But you've got the order wrong. You're waiting for something that can only come after you begin. Because confidence is not the condition for action, it's the result of action. That feeling of certainty doesn't come from positive thoughts in your head. It comes from the experiences you build with yourself along the way. You can't think your way into confidence. You have to act to build it. Every time you start something, even though you're still shaky, you're sending a message to yourself. I dared. And when you repeat that action again and again, even if imperfectly, you accumulate a kind of living proof, not to show off, but to convince yourself that you're capable, you're progressing, you're trustworthy. There's something no inspirational book can give you. You don't need to read more, you need to move. And it's in that movement, even if wobbly, that you'll finally have the chance to find the strength you've been searching for. You don't lack confidence because you're weak. You lack it because you haven't had enough experiences to believe in yourself. When you've never spoken in front of a crowd, you feel afraid. When you've never sent an important proposal, you feel nervous. When you've never launched your own project, you feel lost. That's a normal reaction. Confidence doesn't naturally appear before action. It only begins to flicker to life once you step into what you've never done. It doesn't arrive gloriously, doesn't suddenly light up your life. It comes quietly through the moments when you dare to speak, dare to try, dare to be wrong. Through the times you awkwardly do something for the first time. And then, very unexpectedly, one day, you realize you're no longer as afraid as you once were. True, lasting confidence isn't the kind you shout from a stage. It's a quiet calm that runs beneath your skin. It's when you walk into an uncertain situation and still remain steady, not because you know the outcome, but because you trust you'll handle it, whatever happens. That trust doesn't come from praise, diplomas, or shiny numbers. It comes from having gone through tough times, from repeated effort, from doing many things before you were ready, and surviving, even growing. No one can hand you confidence. You can only build it through deliberate actions every single day. What keeps many people stuck forever isn't a lack of ability, but the fact that they're waiting to feel enough to apply, enough to make the call, enough to begin. But no one is ever enough, not at the start. Every person you admire, speakers, entrepreneurs, creators, was just an ordinary beginner the first time they did anything. They too once had shaking hands, stumbled words, sent the wrong email, lost sleep from worry, but they did it anyway, and because they acted, they earned the confidence you're now sitting around waiting for. If you keep waiting, all you'll accumulate is more doubt, because the longer you stay inactive, the less data you have to prove to yourself that you can do it. But if you start, even imperfectly, you're gradually stacking bricks to build the solid foundation of self-belief. Don't think that acting while lacking confidence is reckless. On the contrary, it's the smartest move you can make, because it's the only way out of the loop of doubt, delay, and directionlessness. And remember, your first step doesn't need to be graceful, it just needs to happen. Small, shaky steps taken consistently are worth more than 1,000 hours of analysis. The confidence you're searching for isn't waiting at the end of the road. It's formed on every footprint you dare to leave behind. When you choose to move forward instead of wait, when you do what needs to be done instead of waiting to feel ready. And in that exact moment when you dare to do something you thought you weren't ready for, you'll realize you never lacked confidence. You just hadn't given yourself the chance to prove you deserve to have it. Fear is not the enemy, it's a natural reflex of a mind facing the unknown. But the problem is, most people don't realize this. Fear is not as powerful as you think. It only grows when you stand still. When you sit there imagining all sorts of negative scenarios, you are feeding your fear with your own imagination. And the paradox is, the more you analyze, the more anxious you become. The more you delay, the more it expands. Not because it's truly getting bigger, but because you've done nothing to reveal its true nature. Fear only has power in the dark. Bring it into the light, and it loses its threat. What you fear most is often not what you're actually facing, but the exaggerated version your mind has created. You fear rejection, not because rejection truly hurts, but because you believe it proves you're not good enough. You fear failure, not because failure is dangerous, but because you think others will judge you. These fears don't exist in reality, they live in your mind. And the only way to kill them is to act as quickly as possible before your mind has the chance to make up more. Action is not just a reaction, it's a declaration. I choose to move forward even though I'm afraid. And what you'll discover after just a few first steps is this. The situation isn't nearly as scary as you imagined. You'll realize that sending that email isn't as terrifying as you thought. Calling that important person won't destroy you. Starting to write isn't as bad as you feared. Fear is only strong when you're on the outside. Once you're in it, you'll see it's hollow. And then you'll be annoyed, wondering, why did I let this thing hold me back for so long? You can read all the books you want about emotional management, about facing fear, but if you don't act, you'll never truly understand this simple truth. Fear is an illusion. No one overcomes fear by thinking. They overcome it by doing. And every time you do, even if it's just a step, you strip away another inflated layer that fear wears. You don't need to do something grand. You just need to move. One small action can collapse an entire structure of fear built over years. Your mind will resist action. It will use logic, emotions, memories to convince you, now is not the time. But don't negotiate with it. Don't ask, am I ready yet? Just start. Pick up the phone, write the first sentence, stand up, step outside, do something specific, clear, tangible, and fear, which only survives in procrastination, will have nowhere left to hide. Once you act, you redirect your energy from anxiety to control, from passive to active. And when you master action, you master emotion. There is a kind of power that only shows up when you take the leap. It's not the feeling of not being afraid anymore, but the feeling of being afraid and moving forward anyway. That is true courage. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be someone who doesn't let fear decide your path. Don't forget that everyone you admire today once felt fear. They too hesitated, had trembling hands, lost sleep, But the difference is they didn't let that stop them from stepping forward. And because they stepped forward, they broke the cycle. They didn't wait until the fear was gone to act. They acted and the fear disappeared along the way. And eventually they stopped calling it fear. They started calling it into warm-up. So if you're feeling fear right now, that means you're standing very close to a breakthrough. You're right on the edge of becoming a different version of yourself. And the only way to meet that version is to step through. Not think more, not prepare more, not wait more. Just begin right now from exactly where you are. And you'll discover fear doesn't disappear because you become stronger. It disappears because you dare to walk through it. And once you've walked through it once, it will never control you again. You're waiting for something that will never come, the so-called perfect moment to begin. You delay because you think your product isn't good enough, your skills aren't solid enough, your idea isn't sharp enough. You convince yourself, once everything is better prepared, you'll start. But that's the most subtle trap of procrastination. The truth is, you're using high standards as a disguise for fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being criticized, fear that if you actually do it, others will see you're not as good as they thought, and fear that you yourself will see the flaws. So you let the ideal of must be excellent become the excuse for doing nothing at all. But perfection is not the condition to begin. It is the result of daring to begin in an imperfect state. Every skill you admire was sharpened through hundreds of trial and error attempts. Every product you value once started as a messy draft. Every successful journey began with awkward, clumsy steps, no exceptions. If you don't act when you're not ready, you'll never act when you are, because the feeling of not enough will follow you forever. It only disappears when you have real evidence that you can do something, even if it's not perfect. Perfection is not a standard for action, it's an illusion that kills all action. You think people are waiting for you to do well? The truth is, most of the world doesn't care enough to scrutinize your every tiny mistake. And the people who actually get things done, they know the value of trying. They know that the next best thing only comes after you dare to do the not-so-great version first. You have to make a bad draft so the good one has a chance to exist. No one creates brilliance on their first attempt. The only thing they do is keep revising. You know, when you only get to work when it feels right, you're limiting yourself. Because emotions are unreliable. Today you feel ready, tomorrow you'll doubt yourself again. If you let feelings dictate your behavior, you become a hostage to emotion. But if you choose to act despite how you feel, you become your own leader. And in the long run, that's what determines whether you'll create something meaningful or not. Imperfection is the raw material of growth. There's nothing to improve if everything is already perfect. But if you haven't started, there's nothing to improve on at all. So don't waste your time polishing something you're still too scared to bring into the light. Just do it. Put it out there. Even if it's rough, incomplete, unpolished, as long as it's real, as long as you dare. Those very things will become the foundation for every upgraded version that follows. And more importantly, you will be building a muscle more crucial than any technical skill, the courage to start without waiting for perfection. One of the clearest signs of someone who will go far is their ability to take action in non-ideal conditions. Not enough time, still do it. Lacking a few skills, still try. Not 100% sure, still hit send. They understand that the most valuable thing isn't a perfect launch, but the ability to stay in motion when everything still feels incomplete. Because in that very state of imperfection, you learn the fastest. You grow for real, and you become someone others have to turn around and notice. So if you're sitting there tweaking some more, rewriting again, planning further, stop for a moment and ask yourself, am I refining or am I delaying? If the answer is delaying, then act. Publish that post, send that email, make that call, launch that demo. Every result begins with something imperfect, but you need enough courage to move forward through the rough drafts. And if you stay persistent, those rough drafts will turn into what others eventually call a masterpiece. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real and because you started. We think discipline is restriction, suppression, forcing yourself to live rigidly within strict boundaries. You think disciplined people are cold, dry, and lack freedom, but you've never truly looked into its essence. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is the only path to real freedom. And beyond that, discipline is the deepest expression of self-respect. When you have discipline, you don't need others to control you, don't need reminders, don't need to be forced to do the right thing. You do the right thing because you've made a promise to yourself. Self-respect isn't something you talk about in speeches or write in a resume. It's something you demonstrate when no one is watching. It's when you could slack off and no one would know, but you still show up on time. It's when you could cheat, cut corners, or give up, but you don't, because you've set an inner standard you refuse to betray. Discipline is the conscious choice that you will not allow yourself to live below the values you've declared. It's how you honor yourself at the deepest level, because you understand if you can't trust yourself, no one else can either. A person without discipline isn't necessarily weak. They simply haven't learned how to keep promises to themselves. They're good at making promises, crafting plans, saying grand things, but when it's time to act, they find reasons to retreat. There's always a but after every goal. I was going to, but I got busy. I really want to, but I'm not ready. I'm trying, but this week has been exhausting. These excuses may sound reasonable, even earn sympathy from others, but deep down, they know they are breaking their own word. And every time that happens, their internal trust erodes a little more. Eventually, even they stop believing in themselves. Discipline is the behavior of a grown-up. Children act on feelings. Adults act on commitments. You don't need to love everything you do. You just need to know why you're doing it and remind yourself, I deserve a better result. And if I truly deserve it, I have to act like someone who does. Discipline doesn't take your freedom. It frees you from chaos, from procrastination, from the regret that comes after quitting. It gives you stability, agency, and confidence. Because you know, no matter what happens tomorrow, you will still follow through on your word. Disciplined people don't work on impulse, they work by standard. They don't wait for motivation, because they know motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They live by principle. Those principles don't have to be grand or glamorous. Sometimes it's just wake up at 6 a.m., walk every morning, read 10 pages, don't check your phone before 9. But because they keep those small commitments daily, they build a solid foundation, not just for their work, but for their own self-respect. You might ask, how can I build stronger discipline? The answer is simpler than you think. Don't act from inspiration, act from honor. Treat the words you say to yourself as sacred. Make keeping promises to yourself a matter of personal honor. Place your reputation not with others but with yourself, above all else. Every time you keep a promise, even a small one, you're sending a message, I am trustworthy. And every time you procrastinate or break that promise, you send the opposite. No one else may hear it, but your subconscious records everything. And that's why disciplined people are often so calm. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. They don't need to shout that they're trying, because inside them there is a quiet steadiness. They know who they are, and they know what they will do, regardless of circumstances, regardless of feelings, regardless of who is or isn't watching. That kind of strength cannot be taken from them, and that kind of strength comes from only one place, self-respect forged through discipline. You felt pain so deep that you wanted to let everything go. Pain from failure, pain from betrayal, pain from a once beautiful dream suddenly crumbling in your hands. And instinctively, you tried to avoid it. You scrolled through social media to forget, found a new job to fill the void, ran toward anything that could help you temporarily escape the ache in your heart. But what you didn't know is this. Pain doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It doesn't rest quietly when you pretend it's not there. It only lingers like an unhealed wound, bleeding silently every time you're faced with something that resembles the past that once broke you. And if you keep running, you're giving pain the power to control the rest of your life. The truth is, pain can either destroy you or turn you into a stronger version of yourself. It all depends on what you choose to do with it. You can let it crush you, make you bitter, insecure, closed off, and lose faith in everything. Or you can look it in the eye, face it, hold it, and turn it into the fuel that drives you forward. No one teaches you how to use pain as fuel, because most people think healing means forgetting. But true growth begins when you realize pain isn't meant to pull you backward, it's meant to wake you up. Those who make it don't succeed because they've never been hurt. They succeed because they choose not to let the hurt bury them. They take the anger from being underestimated and train twice as hard. They take the feeling of abandonment and learn how to stand on their own. They turn the shame of failure into the reason they'll never miss another opportunity. They don't deny their pain, they welcome it as an inseparable part of the growth journey. And then they realize the more they hurt, the deeper they become. The more they break, the more depth and endurance they gain to carry a bigger dream. You can't always choose your circumstances, but you can always choose your response. And the strongest response is not pretending to be okay. It's daring to use the pain to transform yourself. Pain teaches you things success never could. It sharpens your judgment so you won't trust blindly again. It teaches you patience because you know anything worthwhile takes time. It gives you gratitude because you now value the little things you once took for granted. And most importantly, it teaches you how to rise, not in anger, but in the calm strength of someone who has walked through fire. If you're in pain, don't rush to silence it. Ask yourself, what is this pain trying to teach me? Don't see it as an enemy, see it as a teacher. It didn't come to punish you, it came to give you a chance to be reborn. But only when you dare to open your heart and step into it will you see that the fire inside isn't meant to burn you, it's meant to forge you. The strongest people aren't the ones with the fewest scars. They're the ones who dare to turn every scar over, look at it and ask, what's the value of this pain and how can I use it to go further? The world doesn't need more people running from their emotions. It needs people brave enough to turn those emotions into energy. Don't let pain break you. Use it to build something that makes you never want to go back to where you started. Use it to prove that what hurt you yesterday is the very reason you'll win tomorrow. And if you stay true to that choice, one day you'll look in the mirror and whisper to yourself, thank you for not running. Because pain was never born to destroy you, it was born to set you on fire. If you wake up each morning not knowing where you're headed, you're not living, you're just existing. You work, stay busy, move around, react to a series of small problems. But when you look back on a week, a month, even a year, you can't name a single meaningful thing you truly accomplished. That is the silent and most dangerous cost of living without a goal. You don't collapse all at once. You slowly wear down, piece by piece. Without a clear goal, your life lacks focus. You'll do everything half-heartedly, jump from one thing to another, get excited, then give up, start something and forget why. And then you tell yourself, maybe I'm not good enough, or I just haven't found my real passion yet. But the problem isn't your ability or inspiration, it's direction. You're not on the wrong path, you just don't know which path. People with clear goals don't always move fast, but they move in the right direction. They know when to say no, when to focus, when to slow down to go further. But those without goals, no matter how smart or hardworking, will burn energy on things that offer no lasting value. You can be incredibly busy and still not make progress, because being busy doesn't mean being effective. Doing a lot doesn't mean doing what matters. Only a clear goal can help you distinguish what truly needs to be done from what's merely keeping you distracted. A goal doesn't need to be grand, it just needs to be clear enough so you know exactly what you're working toward and why it matters. Without clarity, you can't persist, because when you're tired, your mind will ask, why keep going? And if you don't have a specific answer, you'll quit. You'll be swayed by shiny distractions, fleeting praise, or easier roads. And every time that happens, you drift further from the person you could become. You begin trading depth for immediate comfort, but that comfort is false. It doesn't last. It doesn't help you grow. It only soothes you temporarily until the moment you realize time has passed and you're still standing in the same place. Usual. And the clear goal is like an internal compass. It doesn't make the journey easier, but it keeps you from getting lost. When everything feels chaotic, you have something to hold on to. When others are spiraling in crisis, you still know your next step. And when someone offers an enticing choice, you can walk away if it doesn't align with your destination. That steadiness is something only those with direction possess. You don't need to do everything, you just need to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. If you don't yet have a clear goal, don't rush to come up with something grand just to feel like you have direction. Start with small but sharp questions. What do I want to achieve in the next 6 months? If I could upgrade just one skill, what would it be? What feels truly meaningful when I complete it? Don't choose a goal to impress others. Choose something you know without a doubt you'll regret not doing for the rest of your life. Goal doesn't need to make you stand out in front of others. It just needs to be something you can't walk away from without betraying yourself. Living without knowing what you're striving for is like rowing a boat without a map. You might set sail, you might drift far, but you'll never reach a destination. And the longer you keep going like that, the more exhausted you'll become. Not because you're weak, but because you have no direction to turn effort into results. Every day, every hour, you're spending the most precious thing you have and can never get back, time. And if you're not using it to get closer to a clear goal, then you're trading it away for aimlessness, a soft, quiet kind of destruction, but devastating all the same. You can lose money and earn it again, lose a job and start over, miss an opportunity and create a new one. But once time passes, it disappears completely, without mercy, without compromise, without an undo button. And what's even more frightening is not the fact that time is lost, but that you often don't realize it's slipping away until it's too late. People say time is money, but even that metaphor is too soft. Because money, no matter how valuable, is just a tool for exchange. But time is your life itself. It's the only material you have to build everything. Your career, your love, your health, your knowledge, your reputation, your legacy. If you don't know how to use it with intention, you're trading your most precious asset for the cheapest things. Ironically, most people are willing to spend hours comparing prices for a product, yet they waste away months on toxic relationships, jobs that no longer fit, or mindless scrolling with nothing to show for it. They're sharp about every dollar, but blind to every minute slipping away. They manage their expenses, but don't manage their lives. And so they wake up every morning on autopilot, letting circumstances dictate their schedule, letting others define their priorities, letting emotions lead the way. In the end, they wonder why they can't break through, when the answer lies in how they're using every single hour of their day. Successful people don't have more time than you, they just use it differently. They don't wait for free time to appear, they create it by eliminating what no longer matters. They know that if something isn't bringing them closer to their goal, it's pulling them away. There's no in between. Every decision you make, every conversation you agree to, every minute spent staring at a screen is a choice about how to spend your time. And all those choices are shaping the structure of your life, not all at once, but little by little, every single day, blocking the time. There's no such thing as no time, only people who haven't realized how much time they're wasting. If you took inventory of today, how much of it did you dedicate to what truly matters to you? What percentage of your energy went towards something that's genuinely worthwhile? Or did most of it go to handling what's urgent but not important? Or worse, doing what others want from you that you never chose yourself? Remember, being busy doesn't mean being effective. Being overwhelmed by unimportant things is the fastest way to miss the things that could change your life. And here's another truth. You're not just spending time, you're teaching others how to spend your time. Every time you reply instantly to a message, answer a call you didn't need to take, say yes to an invitation that doesn't matter, you're sending a signal. My time is easy to take. And others will keep taking it from you piece by piece, minute by minute, until all you're left with is regret. Don't let kindness become the trap that makes you trade your life for conversations you didn't need to join, relationships you no longer need to maintain, and commitments you never wanted in the first place. If you want to change your life, don't start by adding more goals. Start by reviewing how you're spending your time. Measure it not in hours, but in the value you're creating with those hours. One deep, focused, meaningful hour is worth more than a whole week lived on autopilot. And that focus, repeated daily, is what separates you from everyone else. Ordinary people use time to escape temporary sadness. Extraordinary people use time to build a life they never want to escape from. You can't earn back time, but you can decide starting today not to let yourself drift any longer, not to let the outside world dictate what happens inside you, not to let cheap distractions steal your precious hours. Every morning you wake up is a new opportunity to reinvest in yourself. And if you're serious about your future, there's nothing more worthy of protecting than every moment you have now. Because when you respect your time, you're declaring, I deserve a life that isn't wasted. The difference between someone who succeeds and someone who remains stuck isn't knowledge, luck, or circumstances. It lies in a moment, a small decision, just bold enough to shift the direction of an entire life. It's the moment you stop procrastinating, stop making excuses, stop asking, am I ready? And instead tell yourself, start now. That moment is quiet, unannounced, and often arrives when you're most tired, most doubtful. But if you seize it and act, it becomes a turning point. If you let it pass, it won't come back. You can read as many books as you want, watch as many motivational videos, draft as many detailed plans, but it's all meaningless without action, because thinking only changes your life when it turns into motion. The world doesn't reward great thinkers, it rewards real doers. People won't remember what you said, what you dreamed, or what you planned. They remember what you did when you did it, and how you showed up. In a world full of noise and hesitation, action is the clearest and strongest voice of courage. You think action must be some grand leap, a personal revolution, but no, true action begins with the smallest, quietest things. Waking up 15 minutes earlier so you don't rush. Saying no to an empty invitation to focus on a bigger goal. Tackling the hard task even when no one is watching. These actions may seem invisible to the world, but you will feel the change inside. You stop living by instant emotion. You start living by chosen direction, and that is real freedom. Many people wait for inspiration before acting, but inspiration doesn't visit the still, it visits the moving. The more you act, the more inspired you become. The more you delay, the further inspiration drifts away. Action is the only way to defeat doubt. Every fear, every question in your mind begins to shrink the moment you take a step. You don't need to see the whole path, you just need enough courage to take the first step. Because that first step unlocks the next and the next. And one day you'll be surprised how far you've come simply because you acted sooner than others. This world isn't made for the hesitant. Every second you hesitate, opportunity slips away. Not because others are better, but because they're faster. They don't need 100% certainty. They just need enough to move. And so do you. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know your next move. One action, even small, when repeated with intention, builds unstoppable momentum. Like a tiny spark that, if sustained, becomes a blazing fire. And that fire will burn down every limit you've ever placed on yourself. You don't think you need more time. What you need is more resolve. Time won't solve anything unless you use it to act. Everything you're waiting for, confidence, success, recognition, inspiration, is waiting for you on the other side of action. And you'll never reach it by standing still. Begin. Even if you're not ready, even if it's not perfect, even if you're unsure, because action doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to show up right now. This is not a gentle reminder. This is your wake-up call. Your life will not change because of a great idea. It will change when you act on that idea. Don't let this moment pass like so many others. Don't let today become just another day you promised to start tomorrow. Because if you don't start today, tomorrow will look exactly like today. And you know that. Action is not just a means, it is your destiny. Every decision you make is writing the story of who you become. So act like you're laying the foundation for your future, because you are. Nothing is more powerful than someone who has decided to act. And if that person is you,